Well, today we are very blessed to be joined by Sir Iain Prance, who has an incredible story to tell, an incredible background, and been involved in so many things. Gillian is Gaelic for Ian, so we're going to call you're going to call him Sir Iain.
We are.
And try and remember to get that right. But anyway, Sir Iain, thank you so much for joining us today. And let me just give a bit of your background. Sir Iain was raised, I think, on the Isle of Skye, or spent a lot of time there, educated at Oxford University, then went to spend some time in the States with the New York Botanical Gardens,
Wow.
and spent a lot of time out in the Amazon.
Okay.
Before coming back to this country in 1988 and to be director of Kew Gardens, or the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew. And that was just after the big storm, wasn't it, of 87. So that must have been a very interesting time to take over at Kew Gardens.
It was. I wondered if there was going to be a garden to take over when I read about the storms, but it was a challenge. It added to the challenge of a very interesting job. And it's very nice to be with you today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. What I'd like to ask, first of all, is a little bit about your journey to faith, because I think I read somewhere that you, part of your journey to faith involved sort of going to university, or you around about that sort of time in your teenage years, you sort of came to faith. Is that right?
That is correct. I came to faith through the work of the Oxford Christian Union. In my first term at Oxford, I was invited to services of the Christian Union, and I heard the gospel truly preached for the first time then, although I had been attending church, going to the local village church, and so I was brought up to go to church. But it was a different thing when I heard the Christ presented in a personal way. And so, yes, I accepted Christ at university and walked up the aisle at that service when we were invited to go forth, and have been a Christian ever since, of course.
So have you always had a love for the natural world, and, you know, from childhood?
I have indeed. I was interested in plants when I was a toddler, I think, and I just wanted to study, well, animals and plants initially, but by the time I was about 10, it was all plants, and my goal was to go to university to study botany. I had two aunts who were very keen amateur botanists, and they certainly encouraged me along the way to get interested in plants. And so I was very fortunate to get into Oxford University and to be able to do the sort of study that I wanted to there. And I've been working with plants ever since, been writing a paper about plants before this interview, for example, today.
So by the sounds of things, retirement is not something that's in your vocabulary. But we'll come on to more of that later. But then let's ask about some of your experiences in the Amazon. You spent a lot of time there recording plants and discovering plants. What was that like?
Well, I did 39 expeditions to the Amazon region, and they were of an exploratory nature, in that I was trying to survey the plants of the Amazon. We discovered over 350 new plants that had not been named, and so there are about 52 named after me as a result of that by other people. That's one way of being remembered, isn't it? To have plants named after you. But I was involved in the Amazon in 1963 when I first went there, and have been involved in one way or another ever since. But when I first went there, the Amazon was very pristine, and I was just interested in the flora and the fauna and everything around me as a naturalist in paradise, really. And then in about 1970, they began to build roads, and the destruction began. And I think I turned from being just researcher to being a conservationist involved in how can we protect the Amazon and use it sustainably.
So how much of the Amazon then that you went out to in 1963 has been destroyed or cut down or just not what it was?
At that time, it must have been about 5% of it. It was very, very little of the Amazon, really. And it was really around some of the cities. And the small amount that the indigenous people cut down, but they cut down and then let it regenerate. So though quite a lot of what looked like original forest may have once been cut down, but their method of managing it is sustainable. And today it's over 20% that has been destroyed.
Wow, incredible.
It is, isn't it?
It's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the Amazon, obviously, they call it the lungs of the planet. How much can we afford to lose? We can't afford to lose too much.
We cannot afford to lose much more. People are very worried now that if we lose more than 25%, that will be the tipping point, and it will change the climate so much that we'll get a lot less rain, and it will change from being rainforest to savanna. And this is a very real fear. And so I'm very worried at the moment that the current president of Brazil is taking away all the protection laws, and the deforestation is increasing. So we are in danger of losing the whole Amazon forest if we cut down more than about 25% of it.
Wow,
Right.
that's incredible. So is there any sign that rainfall is reducing in the Amazon at the moment?
Yes, there is. That's why we're worried about it. We can see very definitely. I was in the Amazon in 2005, which was one of the years of drought. And they said this is a once in 100-year phenomenon. Then I was there again in 2006 and there was another. And we've had 5 years of drought since that first one in 2005. And so it's very real that the forest recycles the rainfall and it's gradually blown across the Amazon. But if you lose the trees where the rain comes in from the east, then you get less through the whole forest. And so there is quite an effect now. We've got very good data about this, and I have no doubt that it is a problem.
Okay. Can I ask about climate change more generally? What is your assessment on exactly where we are in the process of climate change at this moment worldwide?
Yes, this is a crucial year for it because we have the large conference on climate change, the COP26 in Glasgow in November of this year. And climate change is actually the biggest threat that is threatening the world at the moment. It's much bigger threat than COVID or anything else because it affects the whole world, and it is getting more serious. If we don't curb the emissions of carbon dioxide, we are in trouble. We as a species, many of the biological species of the world are under threat from climate change. So we need to take this seriously. And that's why I spend much more time now lecturing on the issues of climate change than about the biology of the Amazon rainforest, because I believe we've got to do that, whether whoever we are. And so it's an important issue for Christians because it affects the future of humankind. So of all people who should be interested are those who believe that there is a creator who created this world in which we live.
So as Christians, you believe that we have a greater need to step up to the plate, if you wish, and do something about this, to get behind this and support this thing.
I do believe that very strongly, because if we believe that there is a creator and that this world is a different attitude than ordinary layman might have to it, then I think we have to take special care to protect the creation around us. So I think that Christians probably are the ones who should be leading and shouting out about protecting creation.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Do you think it's a generational thing? I think that as growing up as a girl, we didn't really even think about such things as recycling or reusing. I think the most I ever did was probably put a bottle in a bottle bank, and that was occasionally. And now the younger generation, people in their teens and 20s, seem to be much more environmentally focused than perhaps people of an older generation. Do you think turning people who are slightly older is a bigger job?
You have hit the nail on the head there, really. It is a generational thing. And I am encouraged by that, really, to see how the younger generation are responding to this all over the world. I've given lectures in many different countries. I remember when I gave a lecture to high school children in New Delhi about 10 years ago. And there were something like 2,000 there, and after the lecture, they started asking questions. I couldn't believe the knowledge, the interest, the concern that there was amongst those teenagers in that audience. And that was a huge encouragement to me. And I've had similar things in the UK, in Brazil, in other places. And so the younger generation has got this, but I think that more and more the older generation is catching on. You see much more involvement now with politicians about the environment, and I'm encouraged that I think it is at least on the agenda of all three major parties in this country. And I know now that it is back on the agenda for the United States, who withdrew from it completely for 4 years. I'm very relieved about that. And I just hope that it continue, because if we're really going to solve the climate change, we need the two large leading nations of the world, China and the United States, to be involved and to work together on it. So I hope that something will come out of those talks last week in Alaska between China and the United States about climate change. They agree on at least that, as well as the many differences they have.
Yes, good.
Your time is spent partly now working with Arosha, the Christian environmental charity and campaigning organization. They're trying to get churches to do more around caring for creation and about climate change. So what are some of the practical things that we as Christians can do to care for creation?
I think that Arosha is a wonderful organization, and it is really inspiring churches. And congratulations that your church is an eco-church. That shows that you have taken some precautions and really encouraged your congregation to take the environment seriously. I belong to a Silver Eco Church too in Lyme Regis. And so we are both involved in that sort of thing. Now, Christians, everybody needs to do things. One of the things that people often ask me, the small amount that I do, will it make any difference? Well, small amounts mount up when you get a lot of people doing it. And so it is very important that you do the recycling, that you do all the other things that now everybody knows about. But one of the things I think that we can do especially is lobby politically, lobby our politicians, vote for the people who are going to have the best, greenest agenda as well. So it's not just our practical things, it's our political activity, because a lot of young people now, as Louise just pointed out, are interested in the environment, but we still have a lot of work to do with the older generation and a lot of the politicians in that. So that's why I think that's one of the activities we should do. But I think it's important to look at this from the Christian point of view, to look and see, why do I as a Christian care about the environment, and look at the theology, look at how much there is in the Bible about taking care of creation, the fact that it is God as creator. But then you read some of the chapters, some of the Psalms that are all about the environment and the wonderful things. The heavens declare the glory of the Lord. And we read the last chapters of Job, where God speaks out of a whirlwind. And what does he do? He doesn't just talk about anything else but the wonders of creation. And so surely that means that it is there to enjoy. And so who more should be protecting it than us as Christians?
That's wonderful. Thank you very much, Sir Iain, for your time that you've given to us today, for explaining things so widely as well, making things much more easier to understand.
You're very welcome, and keep up, and I hope that Crossroads soon becomes a gold church.
That's a high bar to climb, isn't that one? Yeah,
I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, Sir Iain, thank you so much for your time today, and I'd love to chat again sometime. We could have gone on far more, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Not at all.